Uniontown, T-Town, touchdown, Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Rammer, jammer, yellow hammer, come see how we rock this. Alabama fans, the best, there's no way you can top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
Hey everyone, welcome into The Process, Crimson Tide Recruiting. I am your host, Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama magazine. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on Touchdown Alabama's YouTube page. If you're not subscribed, do it for me really quickly. Hit that subscribe button below. Also, be sure to leave a like whether you are subscribed or not. We are fresh off of A-Day, which turned out to be a pretty impressive recruiting event for the Crimson Tide, as several of their targets were able to get to Tuscaloosa. Unfortunately, they were unable to talk to any coaches from the Tide's coaching staff due to the current recruiting dead period still being in place. Of course, it will be lifted on June 1st, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in the recruiting update segment. On today's show, we will be joined by one of the Tide's defensive tackle targets in the 2022 recruiting class. That is a guy from Michigan, and Alex VanSumeren. The Crimson Tide signed one defensive lineman from the state of Michigan in the last recruiting cycle. When you look at Damon Payne, they could do the same here in this 2022 cycle. We'll talk with Alex later in the show and get an idea and get a feel of how he feels about the Crimson Tide after including them in his top 10 along with schools like Clemson and Texas A&M. But now we are going to roll into a couple of recruiting updates, then get a chance to catch up with Alex. So with that being said, let's get the process started. We have multiple recruiting updates to get to today, starting with a couple of updates from A-Day. As I said earlier, some of the Tide's targets in multiple recruiting classes on the campus of the University of Alabama, including four-star defensive end J. Mund Tape out of Louisiana. The Crimson Tide offered him a couple of months ago in February. That offer came from the Tide's defensive coordinator, Pete Golding. Golding and Coach Freddie Roach, the Tide defensive line coach, has been in contact with Tape since the Tide offered him in February. He was able to take in A-Day on Saturday. He said he felt comfortable inside Bryant-Denny Stadium, talked about the atmosphere a little bit in an interview with yours truly. Be sure to check out that article over at touchdownalabama.com. And also was able to catch up with four-star athlete Shamar James out of Faith Academy in Mobile, Alabama. He also was on campus. He said it was an amazing experience. Talked a little bit about Deontay Lawson being part of the Crimson Tide starting linebacker group in that particular game. Be sure to check out that interview as well. I also got an opportunity to catch up with Michael Williams, one of the top defensive linemen in the 2022 recruiting class, who was also on campus for A-Day. Said it was a great experience. Said he's in contact with multiple members of the Tide's coaching staff as well, including the Tide's safeties coach Charles Kelly, Coach Roach as well, and also Sam Petito, a guy who serves as one of the recruiting staff members for the Crimson Tide's coaching staff, has played a major role in multiple recruitments and multiple recruiting classes. He's a guy Tide fans definitely need to know. I hear his name come up constantly on the recruiting trail, so he is in contact with Michael Williams as well. But moving over from A-Day, a couple of guys were able to drop top schools list and included the Crimson Tide, including a guy we will talk about on the next segment of this show here, and that is Alex VanSumeren out of Michigan. He has the Crimson Tide in his top 10. We'll roll right into our conversation with the four-star defensive tackle right now. That will do it for this episode of The Process. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Be sure to hit that subscribe button before you leave. Then head over to touchdownalabama.com. Pick up your subscription today. With that subscription, you will get an opportunity to get your hands on our new yearly print magazine issue. You will get that shipped out to you. We have an exclusive interview with Mac Jones, the former Alabama quarterback who is expected to be one of the top players in this upcoming NFL draft. Read about his story going from an underrated recruit to possibly a top 10 draft pick. Be sure to check out that article in our new yearly print magazine issue. If you subscribe to touchdownalabama.com, you will get that issue included in your subscription. Also, with that subscription, you will be able to read all of our subscriber-only articles on our main website. Also, read our in-depth scouting reports on each child commit in each recruiting class. So go ahead, pick up your subscription today. Then head to the Google Play Store if you have an Android device, or to the Apple App Store if you have an Apple device, to download the Touchdown Alabama app so breaking news notifications can be sent to your device. As always, I am Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama magazine.
Process.